Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are back with another Neurodiversity Stories with with myself, the host, Darren Clark. So, guys, we have now been doing these. This is our fifth episode. We've had some incredible guests, and today we have another phenomenal guest, a gentleman called Jack Fitzpatrick. He's going to be sharing about his early diagnosis of autism and dyspraxia, developing coping strategies, and also all the amazing thing that Jack has done, all of his achievements, the things that he's working with, his placements as well. The stories are endless, and I'm really pleased to have Jack on the show. I remember when I put the post out, he was one of the first people to reach out and ask if he would be on this one. He's an incredible individual, and I know you guys will absolutely love him. So, guys, why are we doing the Neurodiversity Stories? Who am I, and what's all this about? So, my name is Darren Clark. I was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia at the age of 36, 44 now. And since then, I've kind of been on a bit of a mission globally, raising more awareness around neurodiversity. And one of the things that I wanted to do was create, I'm a massive lover of stories, and massive advocate of listening to other people's stories as well. So I thought, what better to then set up Neurodiversity Stories and have some amazing people share their stories as well. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guest, Jack, and here he is. Hi, Jack. Good afternoon. How are you, my friend?
Fine, thanks, Darren. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on to the Neurodiversity Stories, Jack. Like I said, I've been following you on social media channels, seeing the amazing work that you've been doing, and I know you're a massive advocate as well. So it'd be great if you could just start by introducing yourself and telling everyone a little bit about yourself.
So my name's Jack Fitzpatrick. I'm currently a second year at Liverpool John Moores University, studying education studies and inclusion as my degree. And I have a diagnosis of autism and dyspraxia, and this was diagnosed from a very young age, of the age of 3. And since then, I've been on a really long journey to where I am now, and I've had some fantastic support over the years from different individuals. And yes, so I'm here to share my story about it, really. Thank you.
Fantastic, Jack. Thank you so much for like I said, agreeing to come on here. So you mentioned that you were diagnosed at the age of 3. So that's quite an early diagnosis, especially, with me thinking that. I mean, I was diagnosed at 36. So there's, vast differences on there. Obviously, maybe you probably can't remember much about the actual diagnosis at the age of 3. I'm not asking you to recall that. So I guess it's a little bit kind of, you've grown up no different. But obviously, what was that like in the sense of the support side of it, knowing that you had the diagnosis and that enabled you to then have the support, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so after my diagnosis came in and was officially recognised within through the doctors and things like that, I've been quite privileged, really, because my mum's a social worker and my dad's a police officer, and they both are growing up in this type of household. It's been fantastic because they've got insight and knowledge. So my mum especially realised that there was something not quite right, and I wasn't hitting the developmental milestones at that time. So that's why they sought the diagnosis. And it was initially picked up by the person that came to see you when you were really young. So like a visitor, like a house visitor from the NHS, and I was crawling on one side, particularly dominant. And they seem to think that I had a stroke at birth. So from there, they think that the autism and dyspraxia came from that originally. And so from that having a diagnosis, support could be put in place, and from a very young age. So I had a learning support assistant in the classroom, 1-to-1, from the age of about 4.
Yeah. Okay.
4 onwards. So yeah, it's been great to have the support around me, really, and growing up with that support and the guidance, really. So
yeah, no, that's fantastic, Jack. I was just going to say, what age was the support? If we were looking at diagnosis at 3, and then it seems like there was support there from the age of 4. How was that? So kind of, can you recall kind of primary school? That element. What was that kind of like before we go into secondary school and the work placements that you're doing now and the incredible stuff you're doing? What I'm always interested to know, because I look back at my primary school. People ask what my education was like, and I left school with no qualifications because of undiagnosed dyslexia. But when they ask what my primary school was, I kind of look back. Maybe I look back in rose-tinted glasses and think it was amazing. But I generally do. I do think maybe because they didn't have the stress and the strains of all the tests and the educational side of it, or maybe they did. But what was primary school like for you, Jack?
So I went to an independent school, and it was a very small class sizes. So the teacher knew every single child and their abilities and different things within the classroom. And it was really fantastic because of that support that I had in, and I had a learning support assistant all the way from the age of 3 to 4, all the way to the age of 16, which I'll come on to later. But the support that I had was one learning support assistant all the way through. So there was consistency, and we grew to know each other really well. And we had a really good relationship, and I'm still in touch with her now and catch up with her and things like that. So it's a fantastic to have that wraparound support, and in a very nurturing and enabling environment, really, that it was okay to make mistakes and things like that. So you learned from that environment, and that has given me the foundations and basis for where I am today, really. And it's great. It was a great environment to grow up in.
Absolutely, and I'm so pleased that element, that support element has been there, more or less from kind of not day one, but more or less, literally from the start, especially with the educational side of it. So what was the transition? Because I know we talk about the transition from from the university side of it, but what was the transition from, say, primary school to secondary school? What was that? Did you get the same person supporting you with that, or what did that look like, Jack? If you don't mind sharing.
So the school was from the age of 2. So I went there from the age of 2.5, 3, the school all the way through to 16. So I stayed in the same one for consistency. So I stayed in the same place, and having that consistency for me, especially with autism, change can be quite difficult. So my parents decided to keep me in there all the way till 16. So the transition was very effortless, and I was under the same special educational needs coordinator all the way through. And it was fantastic, really. Secondary school, though, was a little bit more tricky, because as much as it was a positive experience, all of my really close friends took the 11 plus and went to all different schools and things. So it was starting afresh, even though I was in the same area. And new people came in, and there was some bullying at some stage, and it wasn't always 100% positive experience, because as much as it was really nurturing and lovely environment, there was still the normal type of bullying or things that go on in normal schools and things like that. So
no, absolutely. And I guess we can, like you mentioned, Jack, with all the support in the world and all the kindness and caring, there are elements that are out of our control, within those side of it. How important is routine for you, Jack?
So routine for me is quite important. I don't really like things when things are completely in a state of flux all the time and things like that. So routine is really good for me. So throughout the week, I know, for instance, now, originally at university, the lecturers, when COVID hit, especially, the lectures were all in a state of flux. So it was all different times throughout the week, and I've got a note taker at uni. So it's very difficult to plan support, because they have to be let know 24 to 48 hours beforehand, and as the company that I'm dealing with. And so it was very difficult when COVID first hit after that, because it was a rocky start. But then this year, now that we're going into semester 2 and things like that, it's been a lot more consistent and a lot more level. So I know that I'm in a lecture on a Monday, 9 till 1, Wednesday, 9 till 1, and Thursday, 9 till 1. You know what I mean? So now that that's stabilized and it's given me that routine and that consistent state of, you know, which days I'm in and things like that. So having that is really important for me.
Absolutely, Jack, and I completely understand, that element. So what was that like? What was that like then? Because obviously we, obviously this is a global thing. Obviously people gone through and dealt with the lockdown element of the COVID situation in so many different ways. So I take it you were then having to go. You weren't working from home. You were obviously going off to study. Is that correct?
No, I was actually working from home. All of the lectures were moving completely online, so it was an additional logistic that I had to do. But actually, I find COVID-19 and studying from home has been absolutely perfect for me because it's given me a routine. So in the morning, do the lecture, have some lunch, go out for a walk, do the assignments in the afternoon, and then just have dinner and then relax of an evening type of thing. So it's been actually much better for me. And as we'll talk about later on about the work placements and things like that, that's been very, very helpful to COVID has actually helped me because I did a remote work placement at that time. So
absolutely. And I've heard that, speaking to many people, in the kind of the neurodiversity sort of sector world, that they have mentioned about the COVID situation has kind of enabled them to work from home, and also that form that routine, which has been a lot more kind of stable, because I guess you don't get so many of the distractions, all the kind of the things that could happen from leaving the house to going off and doing the study side of it. So what does it look like, Jack, when you the studying that you're currently doing at the moment? When this lockdown, eventually, touch wood, and things go back to normal, whatever normal, kind of looks like, as they say, will the studying continue to be at home, or will you?
So it's just something actually from them to say that semester 2 is completely online now. So until the end of the year, which will be in my end of academic year, which will be in April, end of April, start of May, I will be completely online. There's no plans to move back into in-person teaching, but in September, change is going to happen again because there's a brand new building that we're going to. The old campus is gone. So it's again getting used to brand new building, new routine, new rooms and things like that. So again, change is happening. But as much as I find change hard, I do find I can cope with it and help to overcome my disabilities in that way, really, because as soon as you get used to and again establish the routine again, it's absolutely fine.
Absolutely. And that element of the unknown, I guess, someone's now giving you that information and said, we're doing this now, but in September, everything's going to be, in person in this. Does that kind of, how do you kind of decode all of that information and kind of, would it be a case of when you go in, in September and then start learning the process, or are you kind of working on it now and dealing with it now?
Because I don't know the layout of the new building or anything, I haven't even been in yet. So I'm sure I'll prepare myself over the summer and things like that and speak to people at the university to see what it's like and things like that. So when I will know, what I will know is some basic information, but I'll get to know it fully when I'm back in person at uni, because I don't really know what's happening at the moment with this new building and things. Even though we know we're moving there, I don't know the layout. I haven't been in. When I was doing the transition to university, though, the university were very, very supportive and very and showed me around the campus and saying and marked the rooms that I'd be using on a map and things like that. So familiarization is very key, I think, for people with neurodiversity and things like that. So.
Absolutely, Jeff. The whole, the whole point of these neurodiversity stories is we build an amazing community of people who are neurodiverse, or people that would like to know about neurodiverse, or people that have, kind of no knowledge of it before. And it's really interesting to go, and we'll kind of get into kind of, a day in the life and what that kind of looks like. It's really interesting to hear your perspective on, things that I guess I'd say take for granted, I guess, something new like going into a college or university, but the routine and marking out the room element, those things are really, really important to you and can really help you with that, that transition.
On the topic of transition, actually, so going back to my initial journey back to school and things like that. So when I got into secondary school, so I had the learning support assistant who I'd known for such a long time, and then transition came to the at the age of 16. So transition to the sixth form college, Birkenhead sixth form college that I went to do my A-levels, which was a completely different environment whatsoever to what I was used to. And also the fact that the Children and Families Act 2014 came in, and my initial statement of diagnosis was then converted over to an educational healthcare plan. So that was a multi-agency working and things like that.
Yeah.
And things like that were all incorporated into this one plan. So the transition was very smooth there because we had the right people who were working on it with us, and the health professionals and the education professionals were very good in terms of the transition. The sixth form college, that was very interesting as well, because I didn't have the same learning support assistant. It ended up being subject specific. So I chose 3 A-levels and I ended up with 3 different learning support assistants. So, but again, the college familiarized me, took me around the college and saying, right, this is the block that you'll be in, this is the room that you'll be in, and things like that. And also meeting the learning support assistants as well, who will be supporting me. And there was, again, a level of consistency all the way through. They supported me, and I got 8 GCSEs at Kingsmead and 3 A-levels at Birkenhead sixth form college as well. And
that's incredible, my friend.
Yeah, my role with the college, they gave me a role called the Learning Assistant Space Ambassador, in which this was a unit that I spent quite a lot of time in when I was at the college, which was specifically designed for people with special educational needs. So it was like designed like sensory type of thing, but also it had this SENCO there, and also the learning support assistants if you needed advice and support and things like that. So it was a great environment, that. And then all of a sudden the college decided they wanted to innovate and change. And the role that I held, this learning assistant space ambassador, was to represent the students with special educational needs, and give feedback to the senior management and also the SENCO and the learning support assistants to see how they can improve their journey as well as development of the college. And for example, it was simple fixes, such as a partially sighted young person came to me one morning who had just joined the college and saying, I struggle to see the menus in the cafeteria. So could you try and get these blown up for me? So I went to the marketing department and the SENCO and asked, can this be done? And this was immediately like that, just done very quickly. And this forward thinkingness of the college has led them to keep that role. And even the role has now grown so big that they've split it between 2 people. So one person is handling the public and the communication side of things, like speaking at events, meeting dignitaries coming to the college and different things like that. And the other half is also representing the students and giving feedback and support towards people. So that role was a brand new role that I haven't heard about before. And it was a great representation of people with special educational needs within the college.
That's absolutely inspirational to you know, to hear that, and what creative thinking, you know, innovative to I mean, we say innovative in the sense of, you know, we just want to be heard and kind of have that support element, but even, you know, you mentioned on those, the, you know, the menu being too small when they can't read, but I guess, you know, and this is why we, you know, we talk about kind of within organizations, and there's some amazing organizations out there doing some incredible things for, you know, for their staffs and stuff, but it's those little things that may not mean, you know, someone in the art department may be thinking, you know, create graphic design, may be thinking, well, we'll just put this menu together, we'll send this out. It's a menu, you know, as long as we have the items on the menu that we can cook, or what, you know, whatever it is, that's fine. But there's so many different elements to it, you know, the correct font, colors, the size, the way that it's presented, maybe if it's laminated over the top. There's so many different elements to it, but I think that's absolutely incredible, Jack. And for the role to now have almost like, you know, a couple of people on it in departments, you can see then it's a real, that's something they've set in stone to really kind of help and push out.
And the role is particularly for, and always will be held by people with special educational needs. So it's the young people representing the students themselves as well, like as a figurehead for it all, really, which is fantastic, because they can then feed back, and then it always leads to development, really. And I've been back to the college several times since, just to see how they're getting on with it, and they are really good with it, and very supportive environment for people with special educational needs. And then after that, the transition then came to university, in which they supported me with the transition and got me in touch with the disability coordinator at LJMU and different things like that, Liverpool John Moores University. And they got me familiar with the environment again. So the transition was very smooth all the way throughout my education. It's been really smooth, in which I know it's not for everyone, because there can be difficult transitions as well between that. But it's been absolutely seamless, really. And I've had fantastic support over the years from different people and from key individuals along the way. And then when I was looking at the Education Studies and Inclusion course, and this was a very interesting course, because there's very few universities that do this particular topic. And it looks at how people can be included within society, and educational theory and practice and things like that. And when I was making the transition over, there's a government grant called Disability Student Allowance, DSA, in which they can provide you with funding. And if people apply for the grant, you go through a needs assessment. So it's like the same type of process for an educational healthcare plan as it is for this type of process. You go through an assessment, and then they see what type of support can be provided for you. And the support for this is, it can vary. It can vary for everything. So my support that I've got in place, they help me to fund a laptop that I'm talking to you on right now. They've provided note takers for me in lectures. They've got me an academic and a mental health support throughout each week, and it's been absolutely fantastic because I get 2 hours a week with each one of those people, and it's really helped me to have that wraparound support for my degree as well, and help me with my development. And they also, public transport is a very difficult one for me. I don't like traveling on public transport, and so when I was in the needs assessment, I happened to mention this, and there's actually support that they've helped me to provide, taxis. So taxi service that would pick me up from the house, take me straight to the uni, and then just collect me when I'm finished, really. So that's a fantastic service that is in addition to the normal support on there, but it depends on the individual. it really depends on the individual, what support that they can tailor and things like that, and the university as well.
So, so you mentioned about the transport side of it, and talk me through that then, Jack. Is that buses? Is that trains? Is it the preparation to go there? Is it, because I have a like a sensory thing. Trying to use the correct terminology, so that whenever I leave the house, I have to have AirPods or headphones, so to speak.
Yeah.
This is because sometimes it feels incredibly overwhelming when I go out, and if I'm sat in a coffee shop and I'm trying to work or I'm trying to do something, I tend to have headphones that can kind of cut out the noise element of it. So that's me. So traveling can be a little kind of disorientating in those and crowded places, and sometimes I just need kind of a bit of a quiet place. What does traveling look like for you then, Jack?
So for me, I get quite anxious. So going out on my own is very difficult, and I've always struggled with it really, but it's helped. I've developed more and more coping strategies now, but I'm still not fully using public transport and things like that, because I get quite anxiety sometimes, and it can be quite difficult really. I mean, I've tried over the years, trying to, mum and dad as well have helped me with public transport and things like that, but it's difficult sometimes, and it can get myself quite anxious and agitated over that really. So with that alternative provision that they've done, like the taxi drivers, who again, it's routine, and because it's not always the same person, but I end up with like 3 or 4 different taxi drivers who I know, and they end up chatting with me over things. So yeah, it's that type of aspect really. I do get quite anxious sometimes and things, but yeah, it's.
And thank you so much for sharing that with me, Jack. And I completely understand. And it seems to be, like I said, something quite common in the sense that people with the neurodiverse background, that those kind of elements happen. You mentioned about coping strategies. Would you, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, you don't have to, could you share maybe one or two that not just with traveling, but just in general, that you find it might help?
So in terms of coping strategies, over the years, I've developed these, and that's been in the support of learning support assistants and different people at different stages of my education, particularly. And it's like dealing with change, and that is a particular one really, that with transitions and different things like that throughout my education, and that's been a big one really. But I've managed to cope with it. I've managed to overcome those barriers, those difficulties, and I've eventually got to the stage where I'm at now really. And it's helped me to focus and to just take it slowly, but to know that change is coming and prepare yourself beforehand of that. So like pre-agenda setting and things like that are important for me. Another one is communication. I've learned how to communicate properly, like we're talking now, and eye contact and different things like that, because a big one for neurodiverse people, and particularly people with autism, a common trait is lack of eye contact and communication. So throughout the years with my learning support assistants, they went like that, like touching their chin to try and get my eyes to look at their face, and doing that, because eye contact is really important, isn't it? And because if you're not doing that sometimes, and it might go undetected for an unseen disability, such as autism or dyspraxia and different things like that, it is, people may just think that you're being rude or something like that. It can be an important asset really, if you're looking straight in the eye at people and talking and communicating. Absolutely. And also it's developing self-awareness of my disabilities, understanding where my limits are and where to push myself, or what my struggles are, and being self-aware of everything around me really is important as well.
That's incredible. When you mention about eye contact, for instance, that I've always had that kind of element. I tend to, ever since I've always known, I kind of just look away, and then kind of try and then end up trying to stare at kind of the person's eyes, literally just staring at them, and then I'll look away again at those elements. But even with that connective of understanding yourself is so important, and understanding the way that you communicate with people. I completely understand where you're coming from, Jack. So was that something that you developed, in the sense of, how did you get to a stage where the eye contact, was that suggestions in the sense of maybe feedback, or was it something that you learned, or how did that come about?
So through educational psychologists and different people over the years who my mum and dad have spoken to, and I've spoken to as well, and things like that, they said that eye contact is so important. And it was then contacted by the school. The health professionals were in contact with the school as well, saying that a strategy for development is just make sure when you touch your chin, say, look at me. Just try and look at me. It's just small little things, but they've worked on it tirelessly over the years, and it's just become second nature to me now, really. And yeah, it was very forward thinking of the people that I've had over the years, the health professionals, the social care professionals, and the education professionals, that have all been forward thinking in their nature, and have thought about different aspects of, right, how can we get him to develop to the next stage, and things like that. So how can we push him, but not too much, that we can get yourself developed to where I am today, and fulfill my full potential by coming on to things like this, and speaking to people about my disabilities and things.
Absolutely. I think coming on to things like this is it's incredible, and I think it, like you said, it does push you out of your comfort zone and routines in kind of daily routines that you're doing. I'll just say, Sally Coles Robertson said, "What an inspirational young man." There's lots of different people commenting some amazing things on that, Jack. Jack, I wanted to kind of bring on to the university work placement. That if we could just touch on that element, because I know that's incredible, and it's something that we spoke about before. But I'd love it if you could share it with the people.
Yeah, so as part of my university course and degree program, I have to do a month's work placement. And so over the past 6 to 12 months, since summer last year in March, when COVID hit, I've been looking for work placement. And so I approached numerous different companies, and I had loads of people saying, yes, we'll have you, we'd love to have you, and things like that, and then never getting back. But then I found a fantastic company, which was Aggregate Industries, in which I was introduced to James Roberts and Hazel Mooney. And they were fantastic with me, and gave me a project outline that I followed, and I've just completed the work placement. And they were really, really impressed, the company were, because it was looking at their equality, diversity and inclusion strategies, particularly around unseen disabilities and neurodiversity, and how important it is, and often missed element when considering diversity and inclusion. And they got me to speak to 7 different people across the company, and ask them a set of questions which I developed about neurodiversity. And the first question was, what is your understanding of neurodiversity and unseen disabilities? And this aspect was particularly prevalent because most people knew what it was, but in terms of systems and processes and adaptive software, or making sure that everyone was included, there was some elements of recommendations there, in which I created a report which was 4,500 words, with a list of recommendations and action plans that were going forward, and the company have considered these action plans. Like for instance, one of the recommendations was an easy read document. So this is a particularly prevalent thing about usually for people with learning disabilities and things like that, with pictorial social user stories down one side and bullet point summarized information on the other. So I summarized my 4,500 word report into an easy read document and showed them this as well, and presented this as part of my final portfolio to the company. So it showed how important the documents in alternative formats are. And so the company have taken this really on board now, and it went up to the director of the HR director, James Roberts, and he said at the exit interview that we'll consider these considerations. And since then, they then approached me a few weeks ago again to say that they'd like me to sit on an affinity group looking into disability and the changes of diversity and inclusion within the company. So I'm now sitting on this group, in which the first meeting's on the 19th of March. So I want to make sure that all are feeling included and feel promoted within such a big company as Lafarge, Holcim, different people and different organisations as well.
Jack, that is truly incredible. To write that much, and to then to decipher it down into what you did, and have that kind of thought process of how to help and assist with the organisation. And I take my hat off to the incredible organisation as well that helped, allow you to kind of be inspired and do those elements as well. Jack, I want to just touch on that side of it, because I work like you. You've worked now with an incredible organisation who's doing some phenomenal work for neurodiversity in the workplace, and that is music to my ears, and I'm sure it's music to anyone else's ears that's listening to this. What do you think companies could do more to kind of help and support? I know that's kind of a large question, but you went in and with that first question, what does neurodiversity look like to you? What does that look like? How do you think companies can to get on board more? And what would you think?
So in terms of this, I think that the easiest way to try and understand neurodiversity is to actually speak to employees with neurodiverse issues. So they are, at the end of the day, the boots on the ground. They are the people that are directly involved and are the main stakeholders for it all. So by speaking to neurodiverse issues or additional needs, then it's very important to understand their direct views, and from that you will then conduct a much wider scale investigation across the entire company, canvassing people's views about the entire process of neurodiversity. What should the processes look like, and whether that's the creation of employee resource groups or affinity groups, as they're also known. They will be an asset to any organisation, because having a group of people that are really engaged and are directly promoting and championing neurodiversity or disabilities is the step in the right direction, really, because by having that type of support, and change can then happen within organisations. And within that, you should also regard, because an important one around autism particularly, and neurodiversity especially as well, is sensory overload. And so you should also speak to individuals within the organisation, as I was saying earlier, about with neurodiverse issues, to see what the perfect conditions they are that they want to work in, whether that's a loud environment or a quiet environment, whether they want to wear noise cancelling headphones or what makes people tick and what makes people work and gain the most out of productivity for employees is the most important issue and direct issue for everyone that are involved with, right from management through to every employee within the organization.
Absolutely. I couldn't. You couldn't be more on the button with that answer. Can I just ask, what was just to kind of reiterate? We talk about what we can do to help within organizations, start the conversation, asking those questions, and rightly so, absolutely spot on what you said about what an organization can do. What was the time period from getting that incredible opportunity to have that placement in there to you then putting those along with the amazing company that helped, facilitate that in that sense? What was the time period?
So talk started in August, and we then started having several video conferences in September, November, December, leading up to the 3-week work placement in January. And from start to finish on that work placement, it was only 3.5 weeks. So I had the opportunity to only go into the organization for 3.5 weeks. And I'm currently, as part of my it's a module within my degree that I have to complete. I have to create a 4,500 word report from my findings as well, to then stitch it all together to show the creative process of how I put everything together. So I'm in the process of writing that, and that's due in a few weeks.
Yeah. There are some incredible, and rightly so, there's some incredible comments, which I will share to the page and show you as well. What I'm absolutely amazed with is the sheer time period that you undertook to make those differences. Now, having an incredible company on board and wanting to kind of work with that side of it, but we're still trying to work with although the educational system, we're still trying to change and support. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think teaching is one of the hardest jobs ever, and I think that they do an incredible job on the side of it. But as more and more organizations become neurodivergent friendly in that aspect, when we're talking at that time period, it just blows my mind that what you've been able to achieve in that short space of time to set those foundations is truly incredible.
And Darren as well. So what happened after I left is they then submitted some of my evidence to the Disability Confident Employer Scheme, and they went from disability. So that's level 1 of the scheme. So there's 3 levels. And they've now been promoted to level 2 of a disability confident employer, and they're striving for at the moment the third and final level to which is disability confident leader. So it shows that you're demonstrating to your sector and that your organisation is as inclusive as possible.
Jack, I'm going to show. I'm going to share the comments that was on there. Sally Claus Robertson, fabulous result, true ambassador for us, neurodivergence. We had from Bucky, I love the way in which the work placement was undertaken and the opportunity to explain about neurodiversity and plans that the company can implement. Brilliant to hear. David Davenport, inspirational. Sally's mentioned again, Jack, seriously, for the next Prime Minister, incredible. Loads of emojis with the clap. Bravo. Entrepreneur, don't undersell yourself as well. Do you feel that oh, that's fine. We know that there's kind of works undergoing. It's absolutely
sorry.
Fine.
I'm so sorry.
Honestly, look, we're all working from home. Okay? If there's not animals and kids and everything else running around or workmen, please don't apologise on that. Like, you feel we're coming to the end of the interview now. Do you feel that you're what does it look like for Jack? What's the future? What do you want to go into? And is it more, because you're making an incredible difference already?
I want to make a difference to people and organizations as much as possible. So I want to go into the diversity and inclusion sector and to try and make as much headway and as much inclusion and representation of all people, to make sure that organizations are inclusive, effective, and are committed towards inclusion, and that all feel committed and want to strive for inclusion for all.
Jack, that's incredible. Jack, absolute pleasure having you on Neurodiversity Stories. Thank you so much indeed for your time. The information you've given is incredible, and help is phenomenal. Jack, I'm going to let you go. Have an amazing afternoon, an even better weekend. Well, thank you so much indeed for your time, and I will speak to you soon. Jack, also, if people want to get a hold of you,
so I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter at JackFitz_Jack. And yes, so that's it at the moment. So if anyone wants to connect or contact me, I'm more than happy to take any questions additionally as well. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Amazing, Jack. No, thank you for coming on here. Thank you so much, Jack. And I will see you very, very soon.
Thank you. Bye.
So guys, that was Jack Fitzpatrick, an incredible individual. I was absolutely blown away with just the sheer hard work and tenacity that he is doing to raise more awareness within, I'm sure on a global level. I'm sure this isn't the last that we'll be seeing of him. I just completely blown away. I mean, his accomplishments and what he's doing we haven't even touched the surface. We could have probably had this chat for three to 4 hours. So I would love it if you can connect with him, and again, just follow his journey and see all the amazing stuff that he's doing. So guys, that's the end of our Neurodiversity Stories. We'll be back next week on Friday at 11 a.m. for our next installment of Neurodiversity Stories, where we have another incredible guest. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.